What up? I was doing some research the other day and I came across an article that kind of baffled me. And I thought I'd share it. And this guy has this idea that the fact that there was white slavery and people like the Scots and the Irish were slaves at the same time as blacks in America and freed by the Emancipation Proclamation alongside of them. They basically, this guy says that um, we shouldn't be allowed to mention it because it diminishes the black experience. Well, I'm sorry if facts interrupt your narrative, dude, but fact. And I'm going to go ahead and go through a bit of this article and put the nails in this motherfucker's coffin, man. This dude is full of shit. His name is Liam Hogan, by the way, and he's supposed to be some kind of historian or something. I think he said he's a librarian or something. He's a librarian and historian based in Limerick City Library. So I don't know what the fuck that means. So I found a few other articles where they agree with this guy's narrative, but they all referred to his article. Isn't that funny? They have nothing historical to point to, whereas I'm about to show you that he's full of shit. And if he's a historian, he's a fucking idiot. And one of the points he tries to make is this. The tale of Irish slaves is rooted in a false conflation of indentured servitude and chattel slavery. These are not the same. Well, for starters, he's wrong about that. Look, here's an article from the New Observer. Prior to 1654, all Africans in the 13 colonies were held in indentured servitude and were released after a contracted period, with many of the indentured receiving land and equipment after their contracts for work expired. So you can see that blacks here in America were indentured. So if it's the word that he has problems with, he's still fucking wrong. The word slave itself comes from Slavs. They were Europeans. They were white. Person who is the chattel or property of another. And Old English wealth, Britain also began to be used in the sense of serf for slave. The serf, slave, indentured servitude, it's really all the same thing. When you look at the historical documents, they just use different words sometimes, but it means the exact same thing. The term slave has its origins in the word Slav. The Slavs, who inhabited a large part of the Eastern Europe, were taken as slaves by the Muslims of Spain during the 9th century AD. And this goes all the way back to the 1st century. White slavery or white slave trade, historically referred to the enslavement of Europeans by non-Europeans as part of the Arab, Barbary, or Ottoman slave trades, as well as the Europeans, such as the Viking slaves. The term can also mean sexual slavery, including forced prostitution and human trafficking, which is still huge in many European countries, strangely enough. So it's not even over for, nor is it over in the Muslim. The Muslims still trade slaves to this day. And there's a big sex trade, and poor people all around the world are just pimped out. Everyone knows this. I can't believe that this guy would even argue this. I'm a Scottish, from Viking descendant from way back, but I only pull this card when somebody pulls out too much of a victim mentality. I got to show them, like, look, dude, everyone's been slaves. Irish slave trade began when 30,000 Irish prisoners were sold as slaves to the New World. I'm pretty sure America's the New World, right, Liam? Fucking tard. King James Proclamation of 1625 required Irish political prisoners to be sent overseas and sold to English settlers in the West Indies. And it just keeps going and going. I'm not going to read it all. Over 500,000 Irish were killed by the English, and another 300,000 were sold as slaves. Irish population fell from 1,500,000 to 600,000 in one single decade, dog. That's practically a genocide. That's pretty fucking bad. You can try to make whatever distinctions that you fucking want, but that is slavery. That is murder. That is genocide. It didn't matter what the color of their fucking skin was, nor has it ever. As an example, the African slave trade was just beginning during the same period that Slavs had been slaves for 2, 3, 4,000 years. And I don't know who beat them. It seemed to be Muslims even all the way back then. But I'm sure they had to be slaving out their own people before that. Before they went global. But this idea that 250 years of captivity here has to ruin their now, and if the idea is that, well, you can see that they're black and I just look white and that's just a random guy, but you can tell I'm fucking Scottish, dog. I mean, just by fucking looking at me, dog. I'm a giant beard-looking motherfucker. So if the idea is that you can't recognize them by just their looks alone, that's bullshit too. So I really don't understand. Whites have been slaves probably as long as there's been white people. Same with black people. Everyone has had it hard. And I'm not saying pull it up by your bootstraps. I'm just saying, dwelling on this victim narrative isn't helping anyone. The only reason I pull this out is to put other motherfucking nails in dumbasses' coffins who don't believe that other people could have had a hard history as well. It really boggles the mind. And the final nail in the coffin, white slavery, the Scottish slaves of England and America. There were hundreds of thousands of Scots sold into slavery during colonial America. White slavery to the American colonies occurred as early as 1630 in Scotland. According to the Egerton manuscript, British Museum, the enactment of 1652, it may be lawful for 2 or more justices of peace within any county, city, or town, corporate belonging to the Commonwealth from any town or time by warrant caused to be apprehended, seized on, and detained all and every person of persons that shall be found begging or vagrant in any town, parish, or place to be conveyed to that port of London or into any other port from where such persons or persons may be shipped to a foreign colony or plantation. What do you think that means? That they just send out their cronies, anyone that they, what do they call them, justice of peace, they just appoint these guys and tell them to go out and collect people. And that's what they did in Ireland, Scotland. They did it for thousands of years before that. Ordered the enslavement and shipment to colonies of a large number of rogues and others who made life unpleasant for the British upper class. Anyone who didn't like that they were slaves, now they're really going to pimp them out and send them away from their families. If you say that's different than the other slave, I don't know how. You're taken from your home and your family. You're sold into slavery, and a lot of times your family sold into slavery as well. How is that any fucking different? It's not. The above account sounds horrific, but slavery was what the Scots have survived for 1,000 years. The early ancestors of the Scots, Alba and Picts, were enslaved as early as the 1st century BC. Varro, a Roman philosopher, stated in his agricultural manuscripts that the white slaves were only things with a voice or instrument. Vocal Julius Caesar enslaved as many as 1 million whites from Gaul. So it just keeps going back and back and back. It never ends. As long as there have been people, there have been slaves. And there is racism, but there is racism against white people. Oh my, I know that might sound crazy to a bunch of racists who don't believe that they can be racist and who are always fucking racist. But yeah, you can be racist towards anyone. If you think that you're better and they're inferior because of their race, that's what racism is. Bigotry is not being able to accept other people's opinions or ideas. A lot of people confuse those two terms. Well, I think I've put the nail in the coffin for that there really isn't a difference between indentured servitude, and even if there is, blacks were indentured as well. So if they're having vocabulary issues, I think I put the nail in that coffin. And I pointed to historical documents in museums, original shit, and it's incontrovertible. I mean, the history of the word is from white slavery. And it hasn't been easy for anyone. This world is hard, man. This world is tough for everyone. But instead of breaking each other down, why don't we try to fucking help each other out for once? You know, like, if you hate the past, then make it a different future. That's all we can do. We can only try. But dwelling in some bullshit that never happened to you and my ancestors had no fucking part of because they were slaves too is not helping anyone. It's not getting us anywhere. And I hope this shit can be put to rest. That's about all I have to say on this subject. Until later, I'm Socrates. Peace. Thank you for watching. If you like, share, and subscribe.